let's begin our meeting or our presentation with say ayat al-basmalah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
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 Okay, it's the first present we'll deliver with me, Lanur Fadilah. What are the learner's difference? The learner's difference refers to the different way all students learn and the rate at which they learn. So, this difference is to include how the student ability to understand and receive the learning that the teachers is give in the learning activities. And surely we know that every student has a different ability. Okay, next slide please. And as I said before, this topic about catering for learners differential instruction. And now, what is the instruction? According to Carol and Tomlinson, instruction is the process of making sure that what students learn, how they learn it, and how students demonstrate what they have learned in accordance with their level of reading, interest, and proper way of learn. So, the instructions here are explain the teaching of judgment and all the activities they are done by teachers in which class has different way so that each student can receive with a well about the learning. Okay, the next slide please. Now let me see. Uh, Andina. Okay. Okay. It's according to Albright and Burley in 18 and 81. The final option includes catering a classroom climate which will maximize the learning of individual learners. This entails ensuring that learners are receptive to learning and preventing a defensive response to the instruction from developing. So it's the promote receptivity. So this expression is described that the teachers play an important role in regulating learning strategies so that even though every student is different, the student still accept the same material and can get all the material with with this which this is a final method or important method that the teacher has the important role in this method. Okay, it's enough for me, and I will give the time for Andi dan Nabila Gustrian to continue the presentation. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Lena. Wait. As a second speaker or presenter, I would like to explain more detail a bit about the first material between the factors of method. And most of the teacher guides examine about motivations. They offer brief accounts of the various types of motivation discussed in the research literature, like instrumental versus integrative, and also extrinsic versus intrinsic. And then identify the factors that are likely to have an impact on students' motivations. So, many students bring no extrinsic motivation to the classroom. Motivation is a crucial factor determining receptivity. like in a contrast or language and also anxiety in the classroom, and is likely to lead to defensiveness of the classroom. So here's I have three major sources of anxiety. For the first, we have apprehensiveness. Apprehensiveness is when we need to focus on ourselves. The task um, not that everything that we learn from the classroom. Then competitiveness is about it's also about ourselves, competitive with another person. Then the last is language test. So the starting age is the one of the factor of this method. Then attainment of full competence in an L2 was only possible if learners began to learn as a child. Like the minor learner will have a lot of vocabulary, or more likely they will have a better language than major. So when before they receive puberty, the minor learner is have the key task of the hypothesis was whether learners who began to learn and an L2 late were able to achieve native ability. Then we next to the another subtitle in this discussion, and it's a language aptitude. The language aptitude is the special ability for learning an L2. It is complex constructs involving both general intelligence and the more specific ability for learning language. And learning and language learning aptitude is competential rather than unitary. This recording to Sasaki on 90 and 96. So an implications of second model or the third model constitutes that learners can be strong. Some aptitude components and weak in other, like this example. The first is noticing and patterning. For the third, we have controlling, and for the last, we have lexicalizing. It's the third model constitutes the most ambitious attempt to relate language aptitude to a question process of primary abilities and also second order abilities. This is important because it means that learners should not be classified as simply high or low in language aptitude, but rather in the terms of the different kind of aptitude they process in the noticing, patterning, controlling, and lexicalizing in a aptitude class. So for the next speaker, we have Beliantin.
Okay, thank you, Andina. The motivation, the motivational basis of tasks, the motivation of Hungarian secondary school learns of L2 English by means of a self-report questionnaire that focus on the standard set of attitudinal and motivational variable and also their attitude to us basic teaching. Okay, next. Promote motivation through classroom interaction. Motivation is open to influence. Thus, the aim of instruction should be to ensure that learners are motivated and remain motivated. The importance of motivation is recognized in their grades, although there is surprising lack of specific advice about what teacher need to do promote learners' motivation. Okay. Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you for Berliantin Ruhal Atik. The conclusion will explained by Andina Nabila Gustrian. Time is yours.
Thank you, Lena. Before the end of this presentation or these discussions, I would like to give a conclusions of this discussion. The first, I will give the example of these learners, of the factors of learners. I mean, learners who are weak in auditory segmentation and phenomena coding likely to experience problems in noticing, with while others learners with less developed language analytical abilities may have difficulty like in detecting patterns in the features they have noticed in the classroom. So we have seen that learners differ in a multitude of ways and that accommodating this difference in language teacher is challenging. We have also noted that some commentators reject neat prepackaged solutions to language teachers' problems, arguing instead for a holistic approach based on individuals rather than a differentiated approach based on specific. It's like an isolated learner's factors. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for Andina Nabila Gustrian. It's enough for the presentation. Maybe you have some advice or some question for the audience.